I'm in danger. I'm in danger. I'm in danger. Shoot. Oh, no. Oh! Hello and welcome to a new series where I look at games from the past and go over their stories, sights and sounds, and gameplay mechanics to determine if they hold up and should be revisited or played for the first time today. I definitely have a clever name for this series, but I'm not going to tell you because that's just for me. Oh yes, that's just for Nick. On an unrelated note, if anyone has some clever names for this series, leave them in the comments and I can compare them to the super awesome one I already have thought up. At any rate, this time we're talking about the little brother of Resident Evil, Dino Crisis. It's impossible not to compare Dino Crisis to Resident Evil, but I think Dino Crisis has some elements that set it apart and even put it ahead of Resident Evil. And that's not just because I love dinosaurs more than I love zombies. But I mean, come on, dinosaurs are f***ing rad. Dino Crisis starts off with a message from a SWORD agent who has infiltrated a research facility and goes by the code name Nighthawk. Nope, wait, it's Tom, just Tom. The facility is operated by Dr. Kirk, formerly the government's #1 energy expert who was presumed dead, but is now presumed less dead. Enter our main characters, Regina, Rick, Gale, and Cooper parachuting onto Ibis Island to investigate the situation and recover Dr. Kirk. On their way down, Cooper gets blown off course from the rest of the crew, making it clear he's our lone wolf, hard-ass main character. Oops, that sucks. Cooper had all the communication equipment to get the team off the island, so I'm sure he's fine. Unaware of our hero Cooper's fate, the team presses on to find Dr. Kirk. Then we get what is, I guess, one of the most divisive lines in video game history.
That's disgusting.
And look, I'm just gonna lay down the law here. The line is not delivered poorly, nor is it out of place. These guys are just a rough group of military badasses, akin to the team from Predator. Because they're basically psychopaths, dismembered dudes are nothing new to Regina and crew, and its deliverance is pulled right out of an action thriller from the 80s or 90s. It's a good line, and sets Regina up to be a cool character. Anyway, so we've established Regina's a hard ass, Gale is also a hard ass but kind of a dick, and Rick is our resident nerd who will be hacking the mainframe for the entire game. Regina meets her first raptor, and from here on the story is basically, holy shit, look at these dinosaurs, we better get out of here. After an encounter with a raptor, Regina loses Gale and meets back up with Rick, and they decide to call in air support, but of course Cooper had the communication equipment. Regina continues searching for Dr. Kirk and gets attacked by another raptor so that the once missing Gale can rescue her. He doesn't stick around long though and goes back to his search for Dr. Kirk. This guy really has a one-track mind. Regina finds a survivor in the chief's office of the facility who asks, "Are you from the rescue team?" Which she flat out lies to and says, "Yeah man, whatever you need to hear. Now go to sleep." A T-Rex decides to pop in and say, "Hello motherfucker," and Regina heads back to the control room. Once there, the team gets a distress signal from another team member on the island, meaning it could be Nighthawk, Tom, or it could be Cooper. Either way, the player gets a choice here that I think is a really cool aspect of the game that doesn't amount to much, but had the choices mattered more, it would have been really sick. In fact, one of my only real gripes with the story of the game is that it tries to give you choices throughout that largely don't make any impact on the story. An ambitious offering that just fell a little short, but the system does allow me to get my personal favorite ending over the supposed true ending, so it gets a pass from me. In this instance, you can either choose to go with nice guy Rick and address the signal, or you can go with all business cold-hearted Gale and continue the search for Dr. Kirk. The choice here basically determines whether Tom dies on or off screen, so... At least the team is able to recover Dr. Kirk shortly after, and with the communications back online, they can call in air support. Everyone is saved.
That's odd. Something must have those animals spooked.
So even though they've only had him in custody for about 30 seconds, Kirk manages to escape and the team has to find another route off this dinosaur-infested island. Kirk gets the drop on Regina, but luckily Gale is around to save the day again and now re-arrests Kirk. Kirk reveals that the dinosaurs are a result of his infinite clean energy technology called Third Energy. That after an explosion, the Third Energy reactor created a space-time rift and a portion of the island was replaced with a piece of jungle from a different time. One that was inhabited by dinosaurs. Naturally, the only way to undo what was done, Kirk says, is that we have to overload the third energy reactor to cancel out the rift in time, but of course we need around 1,000 parts scattered around behind 1,000 puzzles because they take security seriously up in this bit. Regina assembles all the parts and gets the reactor up and running, causing some ventilation to fall on Gale, and Dr. Kirk escapes again. Regina gets Gale up and the team head out to avoid the blast of the reactor. Gale, always mind on the mission, goes back in to chase down Kirk, but tells the team this time to get the hell out of there if he's not back in 30 minutes. Here's where you're given another choice that actually will affect the ending you get. In what is supposedly the perfect ending, Regina goes in to chase Kirk alone, nabs him, and the team flies off into the sunset on a helicopter. In what I think is the best ending, Gale and Regina go in. Gale reveals to Regina that the real mission wasn't to get Kirk at all, but to secure the third energy research in order to weaponize it. What a freaking shocker. But we do get a great humanizing scene for Gale, who tells Regina he kept her from them supposedly to keep them safe, but also said he didn't tell them because they were too clean and knew they wouldn't go along with it. Which sounds pretty morally ambiguous still, but if you're a glass half full person like me, I'll take it as the heartwarming moment it's supposed to be. The man sacrificed himself for your safety and guard your purity. He's like an old gruff chastity belt. However you choose to interpret the scene, Gale dies, Regina pops Kirk in the jaw, and they make their way over to the hovercraft to get the hell off this island. We get a rad T-Rex chase scene that ends with an explosion, but wait, that was just a fake out. The T-Rex is still alive. Now we get my favorite scene in the whole game, and the one-liner that makes this my favorite ending by a long shot.
You're extinct!
The endings really represent something neat that I do think was ahead of its time and maybe even underappreciated. I think my attachment to the one ending says a lot about the effectiveness of the choice and what it actually meant for the player. All the endings were effectively the same: dino chase, big explosion, get off the island. But the decision you make does let you express yourself and actually let you decide which choice you think is the right thing to do. Here in the future, we're no strangers to games that let you make a billion choices that amount to nothing, but to be able to cap this one off with a choice that kind of lets you make your character who you think they should be, that's pretty neato in my opinion, and at least makes this one a little deeper than just Resident Evil with dinosaurs. While obviously comparable to other survival horror games of the time, I'll say again, I do think Dino Crisis had some features that set it apart and ahead of others in the survival genre. The dinos have completely replaced the zombies of Resident Evil, but they also serve a different purpose here and make this more of a hair-raising survival experience. They take more to kill than a Resident Evil zombie, and every single one of them is strong enough to take Regina down easily. Every encounter you run into feels like a mini boss fight, giving you a more panic-inducing survival horror experience. So the enemies are fast, they do a lot of damage, and they'll pin you in a corner easily if you let them. You might say, hey, I'm a smart person, I'll just go around him, no problemo. Well, look out, buddy, because they come out of everywhere, and even if you do know where they're gonna be, their speed and size coupled with the claustrophobic hallways of this facility make it so there are no guarantees on whether or not you'll be able to get around them without taking a hit. Not to mention the potential clumsiness of tank controls depending on your ability to handle or at least accept them in this setting. Tank controls are often one of the most divisive gameplay mechanics when talking about older survival horror games, and really you love them or you hate them. I can see why you'd hate them, but I think that the clumsiness you feel in them adds to the stress and adds to the mental stack that survival horror games need to place on players to build the tension and cause dangerous situations. If you get pounced by a raptor, your only option is to mash your way out, and that can be massively costly to your health, and the TV static you see in your brain while you try to wheel Regina around to escape the raptors can be stressful and downright scary. I like the tank controls in this game, mostly because I like the idea of entering a room, seeing a raptor that I have way too little ammo to handle, and pulling a quick turn and noping right the f*** out of there. Should you stay and fight, you do have a few weapons to choose from, and I do mean a few. Your pistol, shotgun, and grenade gun are all Regina has to work with the entire game. Supplies are so scarce in Dino Crisis throughout my entire play, I never felt like I could walk into a room and have enough supplies to handle whatever the game could throw at me. Your only option to disable dinos should you run out of ammo is to try to craft more darts that will put them to sleep for a short time, but even the ingredients for those can be scarce, so yeah, Dino Crisis can be pretty difficult. Luckily, Dino Crisis has a few different difficulty options ranging from easy to an unlockable hard mode. But I'm here to tell you right now that if you don't play it on normal and then immediately play it again on hard mode, then you're a fraud of a gamer and you should be ashamed of yourself and your family. Just kidding. Can you imagine? Even easy mode in Dino Crisis is difficult. The scares remain scary, the dinos still do a lot of damage, and it's still a great time. So enjoy it, and if anyone attempts to belittle you on the playground for playing Dino Crisis on easy mode, well, fuck them. No matter what difficulty you select, you'll still find yourself needing to do the classic inventory dance of moving stuff around and leaving stuff behind, because this is a survival horror game and that will just always exist in this genre. Thankfully, key items you find go straight into an endless inventory pouch, meaning no going back and forth for a key or crank or some other nonsense, and the other inventory pouch you have is for ammo, healing items, and other stuff. Don't get me wrong, you won't ever be flush with items. The inventory is just so small that it forces you to have to leave things behind and move them around. Have I mentioned the only way to tell if Regina needs healing is by literally looking at her animations? After she's been wounded, she'll start to stumble and hold her wound, and if she's been cut, she'll start to bleed on the ground. Obviously not something survival horror fans are not accustomed to, but without any clear indicator of her health and the bleeding's effect on it, you'll be constantly searching for hemostat or other healing items to keep things in check, and if you don't have any, well, I guess you just start praying. Not only is bleeding a threat on your life, leaving blood all over the ground will cause more raptors to spawn and seek you out, making it even more stressful. So your instantly limited supply of hemostat has just become much more valuable. If you think that's hardcore, you haven't seen anything yet, because what in the actual are the puzzles in this game? They range from so easy a baby could do it to go get your PhD and come back. Okay, that might be a stretch, but some of the puzzles are just inscrutable in this game. To start, most require multiple pieces to even start, or maybe a fingerprint from a corpse, or a code hidden somewhere buried in notes or other insane areas. I can't even lie, I got through some of them with the help from my community, and if I never see another DDK puzzle in my life, I'm gonna be just fine. Just fine. Just fine. You're gonna be just fine, Nick. You're gonna be fine. They can't hurt you anymore. Graphically, Dino Crisis was way ahead of the curve. Instead of walking around pre-rendered areas, the environments are fully 3D. This means that the camera can move with Regina, making for some really awesome cinematic shots and huge set pieces that you really didn't get much of at the time. The 3D environments provide a great middle ground between full-on fixed camera pre-rendered backgrounds and a player-controlled camera. It's less jarring and easier to keep moving in the same direction than a lot of games with fixed cameras, and the fixed camera nature of the game still lends itself to hiding dinos that can jump out of you, and the lack of control keeps the tension high. It really is just the best of both worlds. The benefit of a fully 3D environment also means that the puzzles are often more interactable, like when you have to move some pipe or pick up crates in a warehouse. While I don't mind pre-rendered backgrounds, the sense of cohesion you get with a fully 3D environment really goes a long way to capture a feeling of immersion. You rarely get that immersion broken even during cutscenes. There's like 3 or 4 pre-rendered cutscenes in the game that are great, but there are also several that take place within the game engine, and honestly, they're solid. Your only way to get other information from the game is through sometimes lengthy notes, so when it provides you with a little bit of exposition and an in-game engine cutscene, it really feels like the game just keeps moving instead of drags you out so it can move the story along, which is great because I have the attention span of a goldfish. It also helps that the voice acting in these cutscenes is surprisingly good considering the phoned-in stuff we got for a lot of games back then. One small gripe I have, and it might just be one that I have because I'm getting older and years of being awesome have destroyed my ears, but sometimes the dialogue in Dino Crisis is really quiet and there's no option for subtitles. That's kind of a nitpick, but come on, some subtitles would have been nice. Also on the topic of sound, the soundtrack largely slaps. There are some weird tracks out there that seem out of place, but it's also responsible for one of the hottest safe room tracks of all time. By and large, the soundtrack is too damn good. It's largely orchestral, making it what you'd expect from an 80s or 90s action thriller, which again is just exactly what this game feels like. I went into Dino Crisis possibly expecting to come out of it saying, well, old game is old, but really came out of Dino Crisis having found a game that I genuinely love now. I didn't play Dino Crisis back in the day, I played it now in my 30s and I fell in love. In it, I found a serviceable popcorn movie plot, memorable characters, graphics that while obviously aged still impressed the hell out of me, and an admittedly punishing but rewarding combat system. I found a game that genuinely scared me a few times, made me tense most of the other times, and a game that I would want to play today and was excited to get back to when I wasn't playing. I think to call Dino Crisis Resident Evil with dinosaurs is disingenuous because it takes the survival horror formula set by others and makes it its own. Shinji Mikami wanted Dino Crisis to be the next evolution of Resident Evil, and it feels like that's exactly what it is. If the idea of this video format is to answer the question, does Dino Crisis hold up, or even should you play Dino Crisis today, which I guess is what a good YouTube video might aim to do, then the answer to both is yes. My only fear is that the punishing gameplay might turn some less seasoned survival horror players away, but should they stick it out, Dino Crisis is massively rewarding. Dino Crisis is a challenging, innovative, action-packed survival horror game that is worth visiting for the first time or revisiting if you haven't in a while. No! No, sweet God! Not like this! Oh, shit, he whipped me! I'm in danger! I'm in danger! Well, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this quick look at Dino Crisis, like and comment on this video, and subscribe to this very channel. And if you'd like to support this channel, get cool shirts like this, and perhaps create a scenario where I can produce these videos faster and we can spend more time together, consider subscribing to my Patreon and my Twitter and my other accounts, all listed below. And here's an extra special thank you to the people that have already done that. Dark Prophet Girl, Mom's New Boyfriend, Jason Spades TV, Spilling Shorts, Another Day with GV, Bouncer Man 4442, TS Holden, Mr. O Dubs, Kimikaze, Critical, Rosie Dave, The Altson Zoo, and Laxative One. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh! What does it mean when I'm in danger? Boom! Boom!